It's time for Sports 56 Middays with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. The first hour of Sports 56 Middays is brought to you by Action247.com. Now, here are your hosts, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
I got a piece of land out in the countryside. Lay back and smell the sun. Warm up the Georgia pie. Feels so good to be taking it easy. Why would I ever leave? 'Cause I know I got some good.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome into Sports 56 Middays on what should be a very busy program. A lot of things happening around the sports world, locally, regionally, nationally. We'll bring it to you over the course of the next 3 hours. It's the Tuesday, April 13th, 2021 edition. To be precise, Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, and Gabe Kuhn. We're in the Family Leisure Studios where family and fun come together. Family Leisure, 2120 Witten Road, which is just north of Interstate 40, I-40. Also, the first hour of the program brought to you by Action247.com. On the program today, our Tuesday regular Connor O'Gara at 10:25. We'll talk college football with Connor. A lot of spring football games taking place, some this past weekend. Some this week, including Friday night stripes for the University of Memphis Friday night at Liberty Bowl Stadium. And then at 11:25, pinch hitting today for Jeff Crane is Adam Walker, who's been on the show a number of times with us, Executive Associate AD at the University of Memphis. The American Conference has announced a change in policy to fit in line with what the NCAA is doing as far as transfer rules is concerned. There's a story out there on Twitterverse about a possible rekindling of an old football relationship for the University of Memphis, and we will talk to Adam Walker about that as well on the program. The Grizzlies win last night in another monster game for Jonas Valanciunas. Memphis Tigers basketball knows where they're going to tip off the season in 2021-2022, as that was announced yesterday. Also, a couple of former Tigers have new homes. We'll discuss that on the program. The NCAA has released a statement on transgender participation, which could affect, and right now does affect, the state of Tennessee hosting NCAA events. And we may recall that this past year, not this past season, but last year when the coronavirus snuffed out the entire basketball season, or snuffed out the postseason, we had the possibility of Memphis hosting a regional, and then that was put on hold because there was no tournament. Well, now that could be in effect for years to come because of this policy change. So we'll discuss that. That's important. So a lot of things that are happening right now in the sports world. We have Humdinger's Trivia. That'll come your way at 11 o'clock. We have 2.5 questions. We'll get to that in hour number 3. And also during the show, we will let you know what our 5 favorite things topic will be for tomorrow's program. Eli, how are you?
I am good. Just relaxing here in the hot tub.
You need a little water in there, though.
There is water in there. Can you not see the water?
No, I can't.
Are you blind?
A little bit.
Just
I guess I see it. The lighter blue. The lighter blue.
Here in the hot tub.
Yeah,
just
I got
enjoy
you.
myself.
I got you. You need a cocktail.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I'm really. This is not surprising news at all. If you saw the play last night, you pretty much knew what was coming today, but the report from Shams is that Nuggets guard Jamal Murray does have a torn ACL in the left knee. Yet if you saw the play, it was rather obvious what the likely announcement was going to be today. Non-contact, knee kind of just giving out on a move to the basket. He went down in a whole bunch of pain. So that's really, really unfortunate. That's horrible blow for him. Horrible blow for the Nuggets. That's brutal.
We unfortunately see a lot of injuries in basketball, but a number of them are non-contact injuries, and it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. In fact, I'm a little surprised that there hasn't been more because of the height that these players get up to, the awkwardness of landing after a big leap, a high vertical, and then coming down awkwardly on their leg, which could affect their ankle, their knee, what have you. Obviously, collisions, that's not the case here. But I saw that. I know he didn't want to go out on a stretcher or a wheelchair. I guess it was a wheelchair. They tried to wheel him out, and he said no. He wanted to go out with just the assistance of his teammates. And and medical personnel with the Nuggets. But that's a horrible, horrible loss for the Nuggets. And this is a team certainly that is in position to challenge the Lakers. The Lakers, of course, at full strength. Right now, there's no competition without Davis and LeBron James. But in the postseason, Denver is built to be a team to challenge. And that's a big loss to lose an offensive cog like Jamal Murray. In that game, by the way, since you brought it up, the good news out of that game was the performance of one Steph Curry, who's had a few games like this in his career. He went for 53.
Yeah, 10 of 18 from three-point range. It's a good way to get to 53.
And in the process,
he's a pretty good shooter.
He's not bad. He'll go down in the annals of history as being a pretty good shooter. How about maybe the best ever when it's all said and done? And with that performance, I think he only needed 16 or 18 points to pass Wilt Chamberlain, but he becomes the all-time leading scorer for the Warriors organization, which started out in Philadelphia. So Wilt was number one. Steph now the new number one, as you said, 10 triples. And Golden State gets the win, 116-107, just the day after the news of James Wiseman going down. But Steph Curry is a special, special player. While we're on the subject of the NBA, before we dive into the Grizzlies from last night, Washington beat Utah 125-121 in Salt Lake City. Surprise result. But Russell Westbrook, who I know there's a lot of people that don't like him because he has that attitude. I love that attitude. I wish all players had that attitude. Instead of just kissy, huggy, how about the mean streak? And this guy goes for 25 points, 14 rebounds, and 14 assists. And it always blows my mind when Russell Westbrook posts these triple-doubles with the rebounds he gets. That's effort. When a guard gets that many rebounds consistently, I know he doesn't average 14, but he's had a ton of triple-doubles in his career. That's effort to go get it. Passing the ball, shooting the ball, two different things. But 25, 14, and 14, and Washington beats Utah 125-121. That is a guy who, for whatever the reason is, I think it's his attitude and other things with his personality, that he does not get the recognition he deserves, in my opinion.
Well, I think he's a fantastic statistical basketball player. I don't think he's a winning basketball player.
I would agree with that.
And he hasn't won anything. That's why he doesn't get much. I mean, people give him credit for what he is. I mean, he's got an MVP award, whatever, but he hasn't won. Like, his teams generally aren't winning teams.
Right, but the big three in Oklahoma City didn't last long enough to see if they would have won. And once that was gone, he had opportunities with Harden, but really it was Russell Westbrook and everyone else. And in Washington, he has Bradley Beal, but still, there's not enough to go around. Can Russell Westbrook, with enough talent around him, win a championship? I think it's possible, but I agree with you.
The thing is, what do you put around him? Because he wants to have the basketball and shoot all the time and everything else. So what do you put around Russell Westbrook? What's going to be the best around him?
Well, he wants to shoot because he wants to take it to the hole, but he also wants to distribute. That's why he posts triple-double after triple-double after triple-double. I don't know what would appease the guy. A lot of it, like I said, is attitude. But you're right. You can't argue. Right now, he's not a winner. Chris Paul hasn't won anything, but Chris Paul, every time he goes to another team, makes that team better.
Exactly.
So to me, even though it's not winning the ultimate, that's still signs of a winner when you make your team better. But anyway, Russell Westbrook, fantastic performance last night. De'Aaron Fox last night, another point guard, 43 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, as the Sacramento Kings knocked off, or did they beat the Pelicans, right? 117-110?
No,
or did they lose?
Pelicans won that game.
Okay, so De'Aaron Fox, 43 in a losing effort. Zion had 30 points. And not as many assists and rebounds as he's been putting up lately, yet it's still, for an average Joe, that is like spectacular. For Zion Williamson, who's anything but an average Joe, that's just another night at the office with 30 points. But he has been killing it of late. The Pelicans get a win. And I bring up all those teams and all
they
those.
Got Brandon Ingram back now. They
34.
They needed to get him back, and now they're kind of getting back to full strength, which was very much needed for them.
Yeah, and I bring up those games because those are teams all around the Grizzlies battling in the West to try to be in position for the play-in or be one of the top 6 teams to make it to the playoffs, clinch a playoff spot. One other note from the NBA before we dive into the Grizzlies is the Nets-Timberwolves game was postponed last night, along with the Twins game and the Minnesota Wilds game. because of the tragedy, again, in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, as the police officer. I don't even want to get into this. I don't know how this person thinks that they're shooting a taser when they're shooting a gun, and one shot killed Dante Wright. And they were trying to arrest him after he was pulled over in his vehicle. I guess he had a warrant, a standing warrant for his arrest. I don't think it was anything like too serious. If I'm not mistaken, maybe something vehicular. But a struggle ensued, and again, I don't know why you resist those things, but that's neither here nor there. That police officer, I mean, how do you do that? How is that even possible to do that, to mistake a taser gun for a real gun or vice versa, whatever it was, and he ends up, or she ends up, a 20-year veteran shooting to death this young man. And so, again, chaos ensues in Minneapolis. So all the sports world with games in Minnesota, with the Twins, with the Wild, with the T-Wolves, in respect to that, but also siding, on the side of caution with everything that was going on. There was last night more hell that broke loose. And so the sports world, I think, did the smart thing last night. And we'll see how quickly things in the sports world in Minnesota will get back to normal. I'm not sure what the...
Well, the basketball game's going to be played this afternoon.
Okay. So it's pretty quickly then.
They're playing baseball today as well. I think they're playing one game today and a doubleheader tomorrow. But, yeah, they're actually going to play the basketball game at 3 o'clock Central Time this afternoon.
Okay, so they're getting back on the horse here. But that was, I think it was the right thing to do to side of caution there last night with the games being postponed. So the Grizzlies played last night in a game in which you talked about yesterday on the show that everything points to a W, the way Chicago had been playing lately. However, for 3 quarters, it was tight. It was back and forth. It was close, low scoring. Grizzlies played much better defense than they did against Indiana. And in the end, the Grizzlies went on a nice run late in the fourth quarter and ended up winning 101-90 to improve to 27-25. Again, a game they really had to have. Jonas Valanciunas, and I brought this up yesterday on the show, and I tweeted it out. I've had some response, not a ton of response. I think you can make a legitimate argument that JV is the MVP of the team this year. Again, last night, dominant. 26 points, 14 rebounds, 3 blocks, his 15th consecutive double-double, which is a new Grizzlies team record, surpassing the great Zebo. Ja, 13 points, 5 of 14 from the field, 0 of 1 from 3, did dish out 10 assists, had 5 turnovers. And Grayson Allen chipped in with 14 points on 4 of 9 from 3, 6 rebounds as well. Grizzlies were 9 of 28 from 3. So not great. Not the 14, 15, 16, 17 we've been seeing lately. And Thaddeus Young, the Memphian, comes home, scores 20 on 10 of 15 from the field. But the Grizzlies taking care of business last night, Eli.
Yeah, again, I mean, I talked about yesterday, this Bulls team, I mean, there had to be some weary legs. And, yeah, they put up a heck of an effort through 3, but you wonder if that fourth quarter became a bit of fatigue. This was their 10th game in 10 different cities in this stretch, including this was 9 out of 10 on the road that they had played and ending that stretch. So have to believe there's some weariness in that group, and the Grizzlies were able to muster enough points and get a win in a low-scoring kind of ugly game. And, yeah, I mean, it's with Jonas, he's kind of get to these modes now where he just, like, you could just see it that he is – like, I'm going to get every rebound. And so don't worry about getting in my way. Don't do anything. Don't try and stop me. I'm going to get every rebound. And it feels like he does get every rebound. It's crazy. And he's so good at getting offensive rebounds and putbacks. He is dominating the paint right now.
The Grizzlies stand in 8th right now in the West. They have a point differential of plus 1.4. Not that that's the telltale sign for anything, but they have a plus 1.4. Under them, beneath them, behind them in the standings, San Antonio, Golden State, New Orleans, Sacramento, Oklahoma City, Houston, Minnesota, all with negative point differentials. Ahead of them is Dallas, and then 2 spots ahead of them is Portland. Portland has a negative point differential. They are 0.2, minus 0.2. The Grizzlies are in the thick of things. Right there. They are in the thick of things 2 games over 500. They have the Dallas Mavericks coming in tomorrow, and then the 7-game road trip, that brutal road trip that we have referred to a number of times. After that, Eli, they have 12 games remaining. So this is going to be, I think, the big factor on whether or not the Grizzlies are in the play-in. Can they get to 6 on a great run? Yeah, but I don't think it's possible to have a 5-2 road trip. It's just too tough. Even though they've played so well away from home, I just think it's too rugged, too tough, that schedule they have coming up. But right now, the Grizzlies, after a bad loss in New York, not a great performance defensively against Indiana, they got back on track last night, and they're still in great position.
Well, you look at this stretch now. Obviously, the game against Dallas is huge. You could move within a half game of Dallas for the 7th spot with a win over them. Porzingis did not play last night. I'm not sure what his situation is as far as this game against the Grizzlies, if he's going to be ready to go or not.
Didn't they say it was rest because it was back-to-back for them?
Was that what it was? I don't even, I just knew he didn't play.
Load management, I guess they call it.
So that would mean he would play against the Grizzlies. But you look at this road trip now, and certainly it's extremely difficult. Starting with the Bulls in Chicago, a team you just beat, but they'll be a little more refreshed for that. But then all the other teams are current playoff teams. But 2 of those games on the road trip, while they're still good and it's a tough place to play, are against Denver,
right?
Who just lost Jamal Murray now for the rest of the season. So that is not going to be quite the same Denver team with losing him. Again, they still have Jokic. It's still a tough place to play. They're still good. But Jamal Murray is a big part of that team, and that changed last night with that ACL injury. So that, and then you got the games against Portland, which, again, they're the team up there at 6 that you're chasing. And if theoretically you could get there and get out of the play-in, that would be awesome. And you've got 3 games against them in a 1-week stretch coming up at the end of the road trip and then returning home. So, there's some massive games coming up and some things that have changed here with that injury to Jamal Murray.
All right, we'll get back to the Grizzlies and NBA talk later on in the show. Connor O'Gara is going to join us in our next segment to talk some college football. Did want to pass along this information that came down this morning from the American Conference. They have eliminated their intra-conference transfer rules by unanimous vote of the presidents per conference. So the barriers coming down, they will basically join what the NCAA policy is. So now transfers within the conference won't have to sit out a year.
Yeah, most conferences have now gone to this. It's just no special rules if you're trying to transfer within the conference. It's just whatever the NCAA rules are, and those NCAA rules are expected to be the one-time transfer rule is expected to be approved here. I want to say it's in the next couple of weeks that they're supposed to have the meeting or whatever and have that vote, and everybody believes that it will be passed. And so that will be what the policy is, whether you're transferring within the conference or out of the conference.
We got a lot of Tigers basketball news as well, Tigers football news. Spring game on Friday, but there are reports out there that a possible rekindling of an old relationship, an old rival on the Memphis football schedule. We will discuss that. As I mentioned earlier to start the program, a couple of former Tigers basketball players have new homes. We'll talk about that later on in the program as well. But Connor O'Gara will join us next. Do want to tell you about Corky's Ribs and Barbecue. Lunch is right around the corner. May not have dinner plans yet. Corky's Ribs and Barbecue is a Memphis staple. They've been around for over 30 years, voted the #1 barbecue joint in Memphis 22 times. 22 times out of 30. You may say, well, why not 30 out of 30? Do you know how many good barbecue places there are? To be awarded that 22 times, that says an awful lot about Corky's. Delectable barbecue. They fired up in their Corky's hickory and charcoal pits, their pork shoulder, their ribs. They have delicious beef and chicken as well, amazing sides, and their world-famous onion loaf. 4 Mid-South locations, Poplar Avenue in East Memphis, Poplar Avenue in Collierville, Germantown Parkway in Cordova, and Goodman Road in Olive Branch. You can dine in, carry out, have Corky's cater an event, shop online, have Corky's deliver their delicious barbecue anywhere in the United States. And a Corky's gift card always makes a great gift. Corky's Ribs and Barbecue, open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. They got some great lunch specials, so check them out today. Corky's Ribs and Barbecue. This is Middays on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56, 96.1 and 98.5.
Start your day the right way. with Peter Edmiston and Anthony Sane on Sports 56 Mornings. Weekdays from 7 to 10 on Sports 56, 98.5 FM and 96.1 FM.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises, just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
Fox tonight. Prodigal Son returns with all new episodes.
You're doing a serial killer cleanse? I think it agrees with you.
And Catherine Zeta-Jones joins the cast.
Martin, they told me you'd do this.
To what, Dr. Capshaw?
Lure me in.
Get ready for some shocking surprises from the show critics call Deliciously Twisted.
Martin! Stop! What are you doing? He's escaping!
You can't keep a good man down. Prodigal Son returns. Fox tonight.
This is a job alert. If you're looking for work, this will interest you. Whether you're looking for full-time, part-time, or even something temporary if you've been recently furloughed, text 107-JOB to 49330. That's 107-JOB to 49330. Office work available now in a clean office environment with all COVID precautions taken. Text 107-JOB to 49330 and someone will be in touch about these job opportunities available now. Text 107-JOB to 49330.
The folks at Homer Skelton Hyundai want to say thank you. Thank you, Memphis, for another spectacular year. They set records, but I can understand why. You think about the product. Where else do you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty? That's what you get on every new car at Homer Skelton Hyundai. Oh, and thank you again for the 11th straight year, the #1 certified pre-owned car dealership in all of Memphis. It starts with that product, but then it goes to the shopper assurance. Where else do you go where you get transparent pricing, flexible test drive, take the car for a couple of days if you want, streamlined buying process? You're not going to be there all day, in and out. And then, and I have not seen this anywhere else, the 3-day worry-free exchange. You buy a new car, if you've got any buyer's remorse, you've got 3 days to change your mind. Just get on Lamar, take it into Mississippi, the first exit's Craft Road, turn left, and go see Chris True and all the gang at Homer Skelton Hyundai.
Did you know nearly 40% of men under 40 and over 75% of men over the age of 40 experience sexual performance concerns? At the Memphis Men's Clinic, their experienced physician performs a comprehensive evaluation that determines which specific issues may interfere with your sexual performance. These issues can vary and range from anxiety to medical issues, low testosterone, or erectile dysfunction. The Memphis Men's Clinic has evaluated hundreds of men of all ages over the years and reestablished a normal sexual life. The Memphis Men's Clinic will work aggressively to resolve issues and allow you to restore your sexual health and overall well-being. That's the Memphis way. If you're 20 years old or 90 years old, come and get cared for the Memphis way. Treatment that's based on your specific needs after a professional clinical evaluation by their experienced board-certified physician. Call the Memphis Men's Clinic today at 901-443-0475 or visit memphismensclinic.com.
Now, back to Sports 56 Middays. This hour is brought to you by Action247.com. Here once again are Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
All I need is a TV show, that and the radio.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour number 1 here on Sports 56 Middays. Never an off season for college football. We have spring games galore. We had some games this past weekend, some more this week. Always important college football news to pass your way. And each and every week, we are delighted to have one of the best in the business, Connor O'Gara, who's the senior national columnist for SaturdayDownSouth.com and Saturday Tradition. So let's introduce our friend.
It's time to talk some SEC and college football on Sports 56 Middays. Joining Greg and Eli, it's Connor O'Gara from SaturdayDownSouth.com. Now, here's Connor with Greg and Eli.
He is Connor O'Gara. You can follow him on Twitter at CJ O'Gara. Catch him every Tuesday right here on Sports 56 Middays. Hello, Connor.
Gentlemen, how are we doing? Are we ready for a full weekend of spring games? It feels weird to be talking about that.
It does, especially after not having spring football for the most part last year. It's great that these schools are having – not everyone's having the games. We understand that. But here in Memphis, Friday night, we're going to have the Friday night Stripes spring game. So, yeah, there's a lot of excitement. And we had some games last week, as I just mentioned. And I thought one thing that needed to be brought up was the fact that Mackenzie Milton was out there throwing passes from Mike Norvell at Florida State. What did you see from that Florida State spring game? How much better do you think the Noles can be? And what are we looking at with Mackenzie Milton?
I'm going to temper expectations whenever we're talking about a team looking good in a spring game. But I thought it was encouraging for a kid like Mackenzie Milton who, man, I go back to that injury, which is now, 2.5 years ago. And I remember thinking, I don't know if that kid's ever going to play again. And given the road that we've seen for him to be able to battle back, I tip my cap to him because he looked good. He looked good on Saturday. And if you saw the highlights, you saw a kid who looked really confident. They did the fun thing, with Andy Staples calling plays. And apparently he dialed one up and, he knew the offense well enough to be able to call a wheel route. So he's understanding the mental aspect of it as well. That's a kid that in terms of guys that you can root for in this sport without having, a specific affiliation to a team, he's got to be up there right at the top of the list because I feel so bad for what he's had to endure the last couple of years. And, I know that's not easy to have to come back from a road like that, but, I think that he's going to have potential to be the guy there and to be good. I thought his recruitment when it happened in the beginning of December, there were people that kind of scoffed at the notion that he was going to be a Power 5 starter. And I'm like, wait, do you guys not remember how good this kid was before he got hurt? Because this was a kid who was a Heisman finalist, not a Heisman finalist, but finished at the top 10 of the Heisman a year before he got hurt and was really good in that, I guess it would have been, the 2018 season now. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that people were kind of underestimating how good he can be if he's healthy. Obviously, that's a huge if. But, man, he looked the part over the weekend. And for Florida State fans who haven't had a whole lot to cheer about at the quarterback position, that's about as good as you could have asked for.
So, Connor, Alabama has their spring game this weekend. When you look at, obviously, everything they lost on offense from the weapons on the outside to the running back, everything else, and granted, it's Alabama, they reload. But what should we expect out of this offense with Bryce Young? I mean, should we expect them to just continue to do what they do? I mean, obviously, Sarkisian's gone as well. What should we expect out of Alabama's offense this season?
What's weird is that Bill O'Brien, and I've been thinking about this, Bill O'Brien, everywhere he's been for the last 10 years, has been able to come into a situation and say, we are running my offense. This is what we are doing. And he goes to Alabama, and it's kind of the same route that Sarkisian was on, where it's, the fired guy from the NFL. And, of course, he was fired not only as a head coach, but as the general manager of the Texans. And he goes to Alabama where you run their system. It's not you're bringing in your own system. It's you're running Alabama's offense, and you can tweak it to maximize it. But that's a totally different element, and it's such a different dynamic than what he's had to deal with in the past. And Saban kind of brought that up and said, that's an adjustment, and it's something that isn't easy, even for somebody who's experienced as Bill O'Brien is. So I think what we're going to see from this Alabama offense is a lot of the same of what we've come to see, where they're going to spread you out. They're going to take those chances downfield. Down the stretch last year when Jaleel Billingsley was healthy, they started using these two tight end sets. I think they're going to be able to do a lot of that this year with this offense. That's been the area where you really feel like if there's one area that can be improved and that we're going to see even more volume in this offense with Bill O'Brien, it's the use of the tight end positions. Billingsley is a guy who I think is going to become a household name in college football. Alabama fans already love that guy. But with Bryce Young, it's going to be fascinating because we know about the arm. He's a little bit of that Deshaun Watson, like not necessarily from a physical standpoint where he can take those hits just yet, but the arm is unbelievable. He can move laterally to get open. He can throw on the run, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. I can't wait to see what's going to happen with the second-team quarterback situation as well with Paul Tyson, the great-grandson of Bear Bryant, who's pretty much the ultimate Alabama legacy, a kid who's been compared to like a Phillip Rivers type. That's why he wears number 17. And I think that's going to be a fascinating development to watch at QB2 because, as we've seen in the past, QB2 at Alabama means something. And we shouldn't necessarily be sleeping on that position. So, yeah, this Alabama offense, high expectations, of course, but it's going to definitely feel very, very new with all the new faces out there.
And to your point about the offense, with Bill O'Brien learning the Alabama offense, remember the story of Mac Jones sitting down and teaching Bill O'Brien the offense. Of course, Mac now getting ready for the NFL draft, but that's how well Mac knew the offense, but he knew it well enough where he could be the teacher and Bill O'Brien the student. But I think you're absolutely right. When you bring in an athlete like Bryce Young, who is definitely a pocket passer. He has a great arm, but he can take off and run. He can do some things athletically that Mac Jones couldn't do or was limited in doing. So there could be some wrinkles.
There should be, and everything is opened up. I think that's what we're going to see even more so than ever. It's a little bit of this Justin Fields-like ability to say, we can do whatever we want. And that's a fun thing to be able to say for an offensive coordinator of there's no sort of restrictions. Right? I mean, Bryce Young can make those throws. It's just a matter of getting down this offense and figuring it out. Now, he's going to have to get on the same page as his receivers, of course. There's kind of this big question mark of, well, we know John Mechie is kind of going to be the expected guy, but what's really after him? That's probably the biggest question that I have with Alabama. I don't think we can take that for granted to just assume that everything's going to be perfectly fine just because they had these four guys who are top first round guys who, got so much separation and could run any route that you put out there for them. But I think that that's going to be something to watch as well. And I mean, Alabama deserves to start off in the top 5 until further notice. But, I think that this offense is capable of putting up a ton of points once again.
So the interesting thing this morning, I guess it came out this morning, where ESPN and their Football Power Index rankings had Mississippi State at number 8.
Yeah, that boggled my mind when I saw that.
Is Will Rogers that good?
Oh gosh, man, they don't even know if Will Rogers is going to start. They got this kid Jack Abraham from Southern Miss who might end up being the guy. He's like 6 foot, $190, soaking wet. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of think that they put that together and maybe they do like the first. I was trying to figure this out. Like, do they just put together the first 6 or 7? And then they say, you know what, it'd be fun. Let's put all these teams in a hat and let's just pick out of it because we need to get the people going. It's too boring to have ESPN, FPI rankings come out. They always need to have that one little thing in there that just makes you scratch your head and go, wait, what? But they can't really prove it because it's their own formula, of course. I mean, this is like the BCS all over again. But it's bizarre to see that. I think there's going to be a year 2 bump with Mike Leach. I like what they're able to return as well on the defensive side with Zach Arnett. That's kind of the underrated storyline. That defense was actually pretty good last year, like surprisingly good, despite all the production that they lost. And they should be really exceptional in the secondary. That group is loaded on the back end, so that's good. But this was not a good football team last year. This was a team that couldn't block 3-man fronts. Their offensive line was atrocious. In terms of worst offensive lines in Power 5, there were not many that were as ineffective as that Mississippi State offensive line was, which is a problem when you're going to run the air raid offense and throw the ball all those times and you can't block these 3-man fronts. So they need to show that they can do that. I think they'll be able to. They were so young last year. They gutted that roster, and Mike Leach said, you know what, I don't care if we're getting killed. We're going to learn this offense. I'm not going to run something different just because it could win us a game here or there. This is about the long-term picture. And year 2, historically speaking, has always been a big bump for him. But, yeah, there's no way whatsoever that Mississippi State should be number 8 on any ranking. I don't even think that they're probably number 8 in the SEC. So that's a head-scratcher.
I did a double take. I seriously, I looked at it and I went back and I double-checked to make sure I wasn't looking at, like, women's soccer rankings. I'm serious. And I look, wait, what? Mississippi State? So, anyway, yeah. Who knows? Maybe they know something that we certainly don't. Connor O'Gara joining us here on the program. So who do you think, and I guess there's still a couple of jobs that are up in the air, but who do you think are the top 3 starting quarterbacks coming into the 2021 season from the SEC?
There's a clear 1-2, and it's pretty interchangeable in my mind between Matt Corral and JT Daniels. They will be the first and second all-SEC quarterbacks to start off the year. Now, take that for what it is. Going into 2018, I always say Tua wasn't one of the all-SEC quarterbacks going into that year. Nick Fitzgerald was. So, take that with a grain of salt. People like to get upset about that. It's based on past production. I have no problem with that. Those are the clear top 2, in my opinion. Now, the problem is that you have so many new quarterbacks in the SEC that it's almost unfair to definitively say that someone is number 3, like a Bryce Young, who Bryce Young is going to be everyone's pick probably to end up as a first or second team all-SEC quarterback. But the problem is, he's never started a game yet. And until you've actually seen a defensive coordinator game plan for him, it's hard to make that leap. Now, if I were picking today in terms of the quarterbacks that I want, Bryce Young was obviously at the top of that list. Connor Bazelak, the kid from Mizzou, is not someone who's really going to gain a lot of headlines this offseason. But he's one of 4 guys in the SEC who comes back with the same offensive coordinator as the returning starting quarterback. Only 4 of 14 teams in the SEC have that. And Bazelak in flashes showed that he was good. They need to be able to stretch the field more. They like this kid, Mookie Cooper, a lot, the Ohio State transfer. So I'm really interested in him. But, it's 1-2 is really, really solid right there. And then there are a lot of guys who are going to be starters this year, like a Haynes King, this kid from Texas A&M, who he can scoot. This kid is an unbelievable athlete. He's going to take over for Kellen Mond, who's been a starter there seemingly forever. And Haynes King is an unreal athlete, but is he going to be a little bit of this Bo Nix where you don't really trust him throwing the football as much as he's going to need to be able to maximize those weapons? I think Haynes King is a guy that has a ton of potential and could be a superstar in the SEC this very year. But yeah, I mean, the 1-2-3 ranking is just bizarre for the SEC this year. It's a 1-2, and then kind of everyone else based on kind of who you think has the most upside.
So this weekend, also in spring games, you got the new coaches at Vanderbilt and Auburn on display. What do you look for? Now, certainly 2 teams in different positions or different goals, I guess, maybe. But what do you look for out of those 2?
Is Vandy going to be having numbers and names on the back of their jerseys? Because that's been the thing during spring camp where I have no idea. I always make the comparison to, I have no idea how a coach would be able to figure out who is who based on not having names and numbers on their jerseys, which is the Vandy way. You got to earn it. But it'd be like being on The Bachelor and being the first night where you have to remember the names of all the women. I think that would just be impossible. So Clark Lee must be a lot better with names than I am. But I want to see kind of what this offense is going to look like there. David Rye, Joey Lynch taking over that offense with Ken Seals, who's also returning starting quarterback, but has to learn a new offense. And then with Auburn, Bo Nix is going to be taking snaps under center in Mike Bobo's offense. They're going to try and do some different things with him. Third offensive coordinator in as many years. He's a little bit of a Jared Garantano 2.0. That's the vibe we're getting so far. And I think that's going to be a fascinating thing to see how he develops in this offense. The weapons are much different. No more Seth Williams, no more Anthony Schwartz, but he still has Tank Bigsby, which might be as good of a running back as there is returning in the SEC. So I'm always fascinated by the offensive development. 2 new offenses there with new coaching staffs, but how can Bo Nix actually look comfortable and look like a guy that's settling in, or is he going to, again, kind of show some of those bad habits where he's drifting and he's only throwing to half the field, always on the move unnecessarily so. So, yeah, no shortage of offensive storylines to watch with both of those teams.
With no names or numbers on the jerseys, that would be right for like a homeless guy to be able to sneak into practice. Oh, that's right. That happened at USC.
Oh, man. Goodness gracious. USC. I understand that they were doing the thing with the Pete Carroll era where they would just let in these random celebrities. You could have Will Ferrell, you could have Snoop Dogg, you could have whoever showing up on a given day to practice. But it's a tough look. It's a really, really tough look when that story leaks and then you see all the stuff that guy was able to do. Hey, for all of us who have ever snuck into a stadium and have, run routes on a college football field, we could live vicariously through that gentleman who got to the point where he could field punts. I mean, what a dream. That's, you see the Make-A-Wish stuff, and that stuff's all well and good, but man, I mean, that guy's going to remember that forever. What a legend.
Hobo Joe's a long way from Will Ferrell, though.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, sign of the times.
You were talking about the Vandy and the uniform. How about UCF and the Gus Bus? They had the Twitter handles of the players on the back of their uniforms. That's unique. That's about as unique as you're going to find.
They keep saying at UCF in the new marketing pitch, say what you want about UCF. They have been all over the marketing for the last 4 years, dating back to the fake national championship in 2017. The future of college football is here, and you saw that on a billboard in Gainesville, of all places, ironically enough. Not so ironically, of course, but that is what they are trying to portray. And if you're going to be a group of 5 team trying to make that next step, you need to do things a little bit differently, and they are really trying to make this their thing. I have no problem with it, and I know there are a lot of people who are going to look at that and say, oh, the name on the front of the jersey is supposed to be more important than the name on the back. Whatever. You're not trying to recruit the 45-year-old person who thinks that. You're trying to recruit the 17 and 18-year-old kid who cares about that stuff, and that matters. And I credit Gus Malzahn for having this new approach, for embracing this new age approach. I always say, adapt or die. Gus Malzahn's adapting, and he's trying to learn from some of his past mistakes, and he has the freedom to be able to do that at UCF. Whereas if you do something like that at Auburn, man, you better have a lot of people in your favor. You better have everybody above you that's totally on board with a move like that. He has that at UCF. He has total autonomy to be able to kind of control some of these decisions, and he's embracing that. He's throwing out numbers about how many of the kids are on Twitter compared to Facebook. He's talking about how his mom's on Facebook. Like that. That's the type of stuff that I think you need to have if you're going to be a coach in that position, trying to take advantage of all of the available resources and advantages that UCF has.
It's ingenious. It really is, because that's what the kids do today, and it's all about social media and social platforms, and they're giving them the opportunity. So I thought that was really cool. But we also see on the other side, which is also, and Eli and I talked about it yesterday, and I think we both agree, that Tennessee State going out there and plucking Eddie George with no coaching experience was still a great move by Tennessee State. And we're seeing more of that. Deion Sanders obviously had some coaching experience before Jackson State grabbed him. But now to get a name like Eddie George puts Tennessee State on the map, so to speak. And now he's going out and trying to recruit other named coaches to help with this program.
It's a fascinating thing to see in big revenue sports, because we saw it in college basketball more so than college football. But you know what? I don't necessarily hate it at all. And I think that while Eddie George is going to have to make the right staff hires to be able to understand how to run a program, if you've never run a program before, like the example that we brought up with Juwan Howard and what he did with Bill Martelli, St. Joe's coach, where he brings him in and says, this is how you do it. This is how you're able to understand how to run a program. But Eddie George is name recognition. He is someone that my generation would know and understand. And he's probably just kind of on that cusp where today's generation, like, really, maybe they don't quite remember who he was, but he's, done enough media stuff, and he was even on Broadway for a bit. I mean, Eddie George has kind of been all over the place. And so there's enough name recognition there to where you need to be able to recruit. I mean, that's the massive goal with all these jobs, is you need to be able to recruit. You need to be able to figure it out. And you need to be able to get support of a locker room. Eddie George has been well liked everywhere he's been. And I think that's just a fascinating thing that we're going to see continue in these big revenue sports, knowing how important it is to be able to recruit. And it doesn't necessarily all come down to, well, did you have 10 years as an assistant? Well, you're Eddie George, and people are going to know who Eddie George is, and that's a nice feather in the cap to have.
Yeah, out of time here, but Eddie George, I'm reading a tweet from Joe Rexrod that I guess they had the presser this morning or just recently, and Eddie George said he had called Jeff Fisher about the TSU job and said Fisher was at the time considering job possibilities at Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Auburn. So I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah, so Jeff Fisher, the day that Jeff Fisher stops saying that he's rumored for one of these jobs will be the day that I'm worried. That's when we got to go and check on Jeff Fisher and make sure he's doing all right.
Oh, touche. Well said. Connor O'Gara, senior national columnist for SaturdayDownSouth.com and Saturday Tradition. Check out all his great stories. Follow him on Twitter at CJ O'Gara, and make sure to catch him every Tuesday right here on Middays. Enjoy the spring games. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Connor.
This hour of the program is brought to you by Action247.com. And today, got afternoon baseball getting underway at just after 1 o'clock Central Time. We got afternoon basketball, 3 o'clock game today. That makeup game between the T-Wolves and the Nets. Of course, you can bet on that, so you got stuff to go on all day long. If you got NHL, told you yesterday, NHL. And then last night I went cross sport. I did a little baseball, NBA, hockey parlay that I hit. Little Brewers, Grizzlies, Colorado Avalanche parlay last night that hit. You can go cross sport, do the parlays. You can have a little fun. And again, there is money to be made in the NHL. I'm just telling you that. I don't know a damn thing about the NHL, and I've been making money betting on the NHL. But yeah, baseball action this afternoon, basketball action this afternoon. You can bet it all at Action 24/7, the locally owned and operated sports book here in the state of Tennessee. And don't forget, with your first deposit, use that promo code WHBQ100, and they will match your first deposit 100% up to $100. Always make sure to check on the promotions page on the app or on the website to see what specials they might have going that day that you can take advantage of with Action 24/7.
Why NCAA events, postseason events, may never be back in Tennessee unless law is changed. We will discuss that when we return. This is Middays on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56, 96.1 and 98.5.
Grab a seat for a happy hour with John Harden.
Passengers will please fasten their seatbelts.
On Sports 56 Happy Hour. Weekdays from 1 to 3 on Sports 56, 98.5 FM and 96.1 FM.
Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
2021 is finally here. Might I suggest we start the wonderful new year with a makeover for your beautiful house. I'm Brian Elder. I'm a roofer. I fix roofs. Don't let them tell you that it has to be replaced when all it may need is some love. 867-0303. Let me love on your roof. I've made quite the reputation over the last decade as the guy to call after the insurance company denies the claim. Overturning a claim that has gone bad is an art form where you argue county code, manufacturer specs, and details of your policy that they have to abide by. So let me see it first. If I say it's a claim, it's a claim. 867-0303. Money is free at Brian Elder Roofing with 0% financing for half a decade. I'll measure your roof from outer space and get you a quote right over the phone. 867-0303 or BrianElderRoofing.com.
Call 867-0303. Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
I want to do some bragging rights. Hey, I was just the other day overhearing a conversation with Big Mike, the manager of DeSoto Auto Sales. They've got people buying cars all over the country. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, Texas. People from all over the country buy cars at DeSoto Auto Sales in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Why? DeSoto Auto Sales has the most stringent car inspection in America. They get it right the first time. Quality and low mileage, factory warranty on most vehicles. My favorite part is the people who work there. Big Mike, all the employees are professional, friendly, and go that extra mile. Expect as you walk in the door, you're treated like family. DeSoto Auto Sales understands your time matters. We can help you find your dream car and get all the paperwork finished in less than an hour. Come see us at DeSoto Auto Sales and be part of our family. Have a great buying experience every time. 662-890-7184.
Need to sell your home? You're in luck because I buy houses. All you have to do is call Bill at 901-406-1101. That's 901-406-1101. Grab that PIN, 901-406-1101, or just save it in your phone. Bill at I Buy Houses. I Buy Houses buys houses in any area, in any condition, at any time. As simple as that. I Buy Houses is guaranteed to close in 5 days. So if you need your cash fast, just call Bill at I Buy Houses, 901-406-1101. Has your house been on the market? Were you just tired of renters? Or is it just time to start over? Well, avoid repairing, cleaning, painting, and prepping your house. Just pick up the phone and call Bill at 901-406-1101. That's Bill at I Buy Houses. If you're in Southwind, South Memphis, North Mississippi, North Memphis, Collierville, if you can hear this, just call my friend Bill at I Buy Houses, 901-406-1101.
Now, back to Sports 56 Middays. This hour is brought to you by Action247.com. Here once again are Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
I was working part-time in a five and dime. My boss was Mr. McGee.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Final segment. We got Humdinger's Trivia coming up to start hour number 2. So yesterday I saw this NCAA news about the statement on transgender participation in athletics, and I have no idea what the standing was from the NCAA before. Now I know a little bit more, and I think it's relevant because it affects this state that we live in Tennessee. So the NCAA statement yesterday about transgender participation within collegiate sports, they will withhold NCAA sporting events from states that pass trans discrimination laws. So some have already passed them. Some have already had them in existence, I guess, for a little bit of time. I know this is not an issue that goes back years and years and years. But according to what I read, the states that are affected right now include Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Idaho, and they said potentially Montana. So there may be some legislation that's out there. So why is it important? Well, remember, last year we had the NCAA tournament that was canceled because of COVID. Memphis was supposed to be the host of a regional. So since it didn't happen, you figure they're going to be back on the schedule for upcoming years. We don't know yet. And then, Eli, you were saying that you believe Memphis is on the schedule for a few years from now for the first and second rounds, correct?
Yes, I believe they've got a first and second round coming up. I'm trying to find the I don't think the regional has been rescheduled, but I think they do have the first and second round coming up.
Okay, so if the transgender rules, again, that are, I guess, according to reports, in effect here in the state of Tennessee, and it doesn't change, they will not be able to host. And Mississippi will not be able to host. So regionals, super regionals in Oxford or in Starkville or in Hattiesburg, any of those places, and other sports, you won't be able to host. So I thought it was important to bring that up just because it's pertinent to our region. Again, I'm not an expert on the transgender community and rules and laws and things of that nature. But I do know that it will affect right now, and who knows if it will affect when those events are scheduled to happen because laws can be changed.
Yeah, I am not up to date on all the laws and all that stuff. So I don't. That'd obviously be. It sucks if we can't get, those regionals and stuff. I love having those here in Memphis.
And they're moneymakers. Right now, again, it's a COVID world. We're getting better. We're still not there. But a few years from now, when you're scheduled to have another NCAA tournament, whether it's first, second round, whether it's regional, whatever, it would be good for businesses. It would be good for hotels. It would be good for restaurants, other establishments. And if those aren't allowed to be held in your state, that's a loss. That's a financial loss for the community.
Yeah, 2024
would be the next one.
Is supposed to be hosting the first and second rounds.
Yeah. And again, the regional, which was scheduled for last year that didn't happen, is, as Jeff Crane has told us several times on the air, that will be rescheduled for the future. But we'll see what happens down the road with these transgender laws. When we come back, hour number 2, it'll be a busy second hour. We got a lot of Tigers basketball to get into. We know what tournament the Tigers will be involved in next season to tip off the year. We know about a couple of former Tigers, where they are headed to continue their collegiate careers. Also, the latest with the Lawsons. Are they coming to the University of Memphis? We will discuss that on the program, but before we do anything, Humdinger's Trivia, so stay tuned for that. We'll talk with Dr. Adam Walker at 11:25, Executive Associate AD at the University of Memphis, a number of different things, including the details for Friday night's spring game, Friday Night Stripes. This is Middays on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56, 96.1 and 98.5.
At First Bank Mortgage, their core purpose is to help you get to a better place. That better place may be a lower monthly payment, that vacation you thought was impossible, or getting into a home with a fenced backyard where your kids can play. To get into your better place, First Bank Mortgage makes decisions right here at home. Dedicated to helping you get to your better place, First Bank Mortgage. Call Daniel Mooney at 901-462-0145 today. NMLS 741022. Equal housing lender.
Introducing touch-free payments from PayPal, a safe way for your customers to pay. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan. Whether you're a market seller,
I'll take 2 tomatoes and a cucumber.
poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber. Signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Shop safe with PayPal.
I'm here with the great Pat Donahue from the Rendezvous Restaurant Shipping Department.
Thanks, Brett. We've been shipping our ribs all over the country now for decades from our USDA-inspected shipping kitchen in the Pinch District. We hand-cook our ribs in pits that Mr. Charlie built over charcoal, just like they do at the restaurant.
So what comes in a rib box?
We could do pork shoulder, we could do ribs, our sauce, seasoning, baked beans, coleslaw. We'll even throw in Pancho's cheese dip with our nacho boxes. We also put a bag of Rendezvous seasoned popcorn, heating instructions, some chef hats, some wet naps, and some other helpful tips from our kitchen. We ship our ribs overnight, exclusively FedEx. And we put them in nice packaging. We don't ever want to use styrofoam, so we use corrugated cardboard, actually 2 boxes that fit nice together, so the ribs get to you, your loved ones, or your clients in a safe, wholesome manner. Rendezvous ribs are perfect for out-of-town clients, customers, loved ones. We also ship ribs for any occasion.
Where do we order these great ribs?
You can go to www.hogsfly.com or give us a call at 1-888-464-7359.
Charlie Burgos' Rendezvous Restaurant in the alley since 1948.
Did you know nearly 40% of men under 40 and over 75% of men over the age of 40 experience sexual performance concerns? At the Memphis Men's Clinic, their experienced physician performs a comprehensive evaluation that determines which specific issues may interfere with your sexual performance. These issues can vary and range from anxiety to medical issues, low testosterone, or erectile dysfunction. The Memphis Men's Clinic has evaluated hundreds of men of all ages over the years and reestablished a normal sexual life. The Memphis Men's Clinic will work aggressively to resolve issues and allow you to restore your sexual health and overall well-being. That's the Memphis way. If you're 20 years old or 90 years old, come and get cared for the Memphis way. Treatment that's based on your specific needs after a professional clinical evaluation by their experienced board-certified physician. Call the Memphis Men's Clinic today at 901-443-0475 or visit memphismensclinic.com.
The folks at Homer Skelton Hyundai want to say thank you. Thank you, Memphis, for another spectacular year. They set records, but I can understand why. You think about the product. Where else do you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty? That's what you get on every new car at Homer Skelton Hyundai. Oh, and thank you again for the 11th straight year, the #1 certified pre-owned car dealership in all of Memphis. It starts with that product, but then it goes to the shopper assurance. Where else do you go where you get transparent pricing, flexible test drive, take the car for a couple of days if you want, streamlined buying process? You're not going to be there all day, in and out. And then, and I have not seen this anywhere else, the 3-day worry-free exchange. You buy a new car, if you've got any buyer's remorse, you've got 3 days to change your mind. Just get on Lamar, take it into Mississippi, the first exit's Craft Road, turn left, and go see Chris True and all the gang at Homer Skelton Hyundai.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, W253DF Memphis, and WIVG Tunica Memphis. Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Now, back to Sports 56 Middays. This hour of Sports 56 Middays is brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers at 4900 Poplar. Here once again are Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Welcome back, everyone. 11:02 the time. Hour number 2 here on Sports 56 Middays, the Tuesday, April 13th, 2021 edition of the program. Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, Gabe Kuhn. We're in the Family Leisure Studios where family and fun come together. Family Leisure, 2120 Whitten Road, just north of I-40. Got some Tigers talk to get into, both basketball, football. We'll get back into the Grizzlies conversation after their win last night over the Chicago Bulls. And at 10 or 11:25, Dr. Adam Walker from the University of Memphis will join us. But go ahead.
Well, I've got a couple of texts that I want to get to here. Just a second.
Okay.
I guess that's okay. I was like, what is this talk about? This is about the NCAA.
The transgender thing?
Transgender stuff. Mm-hmm. Somebody says, can't let the NCAA push us around. The state has done the right thing here to protect girls' sports.
It's a hot button topic. There is no question about it. You have, like I said, only 5 states currently, or 4, and then a possible 5th. But I don't know. I don't know where legislation is in other states. I have no idea. All I'm doing is passing along this story, which, again, right now, in the way it is, has been discussed by the NCAA and now put into their bylaws, is that there will be no NCAA events in these states unless their bylaws change, unless their laws change. So
I guess
they can be pushed around.
The thing would be if all of a sudden 25 states have this as the NCAA. Like, how many states becomes where the NCAA says, all right, well, now we're way too limited on states to hold tournaments. Like, when does that end? Like, if there's, and I don't know how many are maybe looking at adding these laws or whatever. But if suddenly 30 states have these laws, is the NCAA still going to say, all right, we're down to just 20 states we can host tournaments
Well,
in?
that's a fair question. And look, we are far from a political show. I do not understand politics. I don't pretend to. But I'm going to guess there are a lot of states out there that are pro these laws where they will roll out the carpet for the NCAA tournament to bring their events there because of their support for transgender. The texter, again, I understand that's the other side of things. How does it affect sports at the prep level, the high school level? And you got to balance whether or not these NCAA tournament or NCAA regionals or any NCAA postseason events coming to your state are that important. Is it one or the other? I don't know. I don't know enough about the politics of this particular topic. I just know that right now, if there was a tournament scheduled for a month from now in Tennessee or Mississippi, an NCAA tournament event, an NCAA postseason event in any sport, it would not take place there.
Somebody else says good for Tennessee, stand firm. Yeah. So I'm confused on some of this stuff because the whole baseball all-star game thing, like I still don't, because everything I read is like how the new voting laws in Georgia are pretty much the same as voting laws in many other states. And so I don't even understand that whole deal, why the baseball all-star game was moved if indeed these laws are laws that are currently in place in most other states.
Well, and some say it's even worse in other states. And they also said, I think, Colorado, it's just as bad or worse than it is in Georgia. I know Georgia's a hot button. I talk about hot button topics. That is a hot button state. That is a state where it's mostly, or it was Republican, and then it changed over with all the controversy with the vote, with the presidential election and the voting. We never got it took how many days after, weeks or whatever it was, before we finally got a final count in not Atlanta, but in Georgia as a state. So I don't know. Look, politics are always going to be a part of sports, whether you like it or not.
Slow, but
yes, but you can combine a couple of things. You have Hideki Matsuyama with a commanding lead going